Welcome to the second half of eclipse season, everybody. The new moon in Virgo on September 2nd is kicking off this energy. And as we move through this video today, we're going to be talking about the opening themes that are beginning this process of readying us and guiding us through the transformation that we will be receiving as we move into the lunar eclipse in Pisces on the 17th of September and the solar eclipse in Libra on the 2nd of October. These are, as always, big energies. And I'm here to guide you through these energies and explain to you what it is that you might be feeling, why it is that you are feeling this, and how it is that you can best work with and maximize these energies in order to expand your own consciousness and potential. So let's get right into it. This new moon is occurring at 11 degrees of Virgo, and it is happening opposite Saturn in Pisces. This is not an exact opposition, but it is definitely an opposition that we are going to be feeling. And it is a powerful energy because Saturn in Pisces has been moving through some major activations. Those of you who caught the full moon in Aquarius video will remember that Saturn and Jupiter are in their opening squares, which is actually a set of 3 squares because of the retrograde and direct motions of these two planets. Their first opening square was occurring during the Aquarius full moon, and then they're going to move through another opening square on Christmas Eve, 12/24/24, and another one in June of next year. So it's a series of squares that they are coming into after having their original conjunction, which began a brand new cycle for these two planets and the energies that they represent together. Back in 2020, 12/21/2020, when we began experiencing the first bifurcation of the earth, or the first major bifurcation point, I guess you could say, as we're moving through these energies. I'm not going to get into all the details of that in this specific video, but go ahead and check out the full moon in Aquarius video if you want to learn more about these opening squares. These are essentially check-in points when it comes to our highest timeline as we move and bridge into this age of Aquarius and into these new earth energies. So Saturn, very jazzed in the middle of this series of check-in points here. So very powerful and activated on its own, of course, in connection with Jupiter. And now the sun and the moon come together, as they always do during a new moon, in the sign of Virgo, in this gentle opposition to Saturn and Pisces. And what's going on here is a deeper check-in within ourselves. This is a deeper check-in around the basic energies of Virgo, right? Are our actions, are our daily habits and routines aligned with this highest timeline that we want to merge or bridge onto? This highest timeline that many of us are currently already on. So it's less about moving us onto that timeline and more about checking in to make sure that we are well equipped to continue to navigate the ups and downs of that timeline and to remain within that trajectory of energy. Saturn in Pisces represents powerful soul lessons, being that Saturn is a planet that represents karma and represents the lessons that we're here to learn in this lifetime, particularly the hard knock type of lessons, the ones that really challenge us, that force us to grow, that force us to develop discipline, stamina, perseverance. These are the challenges that bear the greatest fruit and the greatest reward once we have mastered them. Pisces is a sign of completion, the 12th sign in the zodiac. So as Saturn moves through Pisces, there's a powerful completion here in these Saturnian lessons for each and every single one of us. And this is a check-in point, not just for our highest timeline and those energies relating to Jupiter and Saturn, their conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius back in 2020 that we mentioned. This goes far beyond that energy, and it goes deeper and more personally into a particular soul lesson that we came here to learn. This is probably a lesson that we may not always be conscious of. It's being brought into our conscious awareness so that we can heal it, so that we can understand it and finally move past and through it. I don't want to say move past it. I guess that makes me feel, it feels dismissive, right? And we're not dismissing it. None of these soul lessons are meant to be dismissed. They're meant to be fully understood and integrated, fully internalized so that we can gather the wisdom from them. And this is, I'm feeling this as I'm sharing it right now as the wisdom keeper's moon. So there's a wisdom, a deeper wisdom within each and every single one of us that wants to be harnessed, that wants to be unlocked. And we're being asked to look at the particular soul lessons that we came here to learn and that we have been learning, particularly through this last Saturn cycle. And Saturn takes about 30 years to move, 28 to 30 years to move through the zodiac. So this would be a 28, 30-year cycle that Saturn is completing with us within the sign as it moves into and through the sign of Pisces. And Saturn's going to be in Pisces until 2026. So we have some time with this, but this is a big check-in point for this. And remember, the new moon is initiating eclipse season. So the eclipse that we have on September 17th is going to be a deepening of this energy and experience. We actually are going to have the moon move from Virgo, where it's now connected with the sun, into Pisces itself. And the moon is going to be loosely conjunct Saturn during that full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. So this is really, really big stuff. We're getting that check-in point here. And the energies and the understandings are going to continue to deepen as we move deeper into eclipse season. So we don't have to put any pressure on ourselves like, I have to figure out what this is now. It's going to become clear to you if you simply observe and pay attention to the themes that are coming up in your life right now. Some of these themes may relate to these Piscean energies as well as the Virgo energies. So this may relate to energies of victimization, energies of powerlessness, times where we've given away our power, areas where we've been called to take greater energetic responsibility and where perhaps we've been placing the blame or the responsibility onto something or something else, perhaps projecting. It's like a mirror reflecting that projection back to us is what a lot of this new moon and then the full moon eclipse that we're going to be experiencing, that's a lot of what this energy feels like. That mirror is reflecting back to us. It's showing us what we have been either unwilling or unable to see. And for some people, this may be a painful realization, right? Noticing and recognizing where it is that I play the victim, where it is that I give my power away, where it is that I give my creative power away by refusing to take responsibility for the life that I have created, for the version of reality that I have created for myself. Right? Really taking ownership of that, taking ownership of our soul contracts, knowing and understanding that these are contracts that both people agreed to in order for both souls' growth. And we're going to get into the relational aspect of this as we move into the other major aspect that's going on with this full moon, or this new moon rather, in Virgo. But there is a big emphasis on relationships. So soul contracts really coming under review here, us really understanding and acknowledging the contracts that we've created, that those were, it's kind of like when we talk about relationships, so we talk about how one person is not responsible for all the issues in a relationship because it takes two to tango, right? It's like understanding that some of the people that hurt us the most agreed to do that so that we could grow and evolve. Understanding that we took on all of our greatest challenges for that very same reason. And this is a check-in point. How much have we truly grown surrounding these themes, these lessons that we've been learning? This is also the energy of service, the energy of martyrdom. So we're going to be looking at that, where we may have made ourselves a martyr. I'm also feeling this energy of putting people on pedestals, noticing and recognizing where we've done that to people, we may have allowed people to do this to us, and how that has skewed different things in our reality. For some people, this might be a time where somebody that you placed on a pedestal falls, And by falls, I just mean shows that they're human, right? Because when we place somebody up on a pedestal, we think of them as greater than us. We think of them as having this excess of wisdom and knowledge, as almost being inhuman in a sense, right? We expect perfection. Virgo is very much about that energy of perfectionism, criticism, self-criticism in its lower aspects. So we're really looking at that. Where have we expected people to be perfect and then been angry with them because they failed? Where have we placed them up on some type of pedestal and then been angry when they failed to live up to our expectations? And where have perhaps other people done this to us if we've allowed people to place us on a pedestal? And I say to us, but we are allowing this, right? If this is going on to some extent. So if we have allowed this and we are having a fall from grace, we are showing our humanness, I suppose you could say, and other people are not into that, right? They're not appreciating that. How dare you? There could be some energy and some lessons that we're learning about that as well. Energy, the expectations that came up, Spirit saying that's a big one. And remember, we say this pretty often on here. Expectations are premeditated resentments. That's an old 12-step quote, and it is so true. So be careful with those expectations. We may have placed expectations on people without even realizing that we placed them there. And now we're having to come face to face with that and really understand that at least half, I want to say, of all the drama and all the disappointment and sadness that we've gone through has been because of our own expectations that were placed upon somebody that were completely unrealistic. So it's like coming back to a balanced level of expectation. If we have any expectation at all, the best way to move through life is with no expectation. Yeah, I was going to put caveats to that, but we're just going to leave that as it is, right? That's the ideal state to be. Simply allowing every moment to unfold, every relationship to unfold organically. Not ever doing something because we expect something back from somebody, but simply from the fullness and the richness of our heart. And this is where the energy of service comes into play. Understanding the ways that we are of service to the world. What ways are perhaps draining us? What ways are fulfilling us? Better ways that we can show up, more efficient ways, more balanced ways that we can show up in service. This was a big journey for me in my own life. I had a period of time where I'll share with you guys when I first got clean. Many of you know that I was a drug addict for many years. I reference 12-step recovery a lot because I was very heavily involved in 12-step recovery for many years. And in that process, in the beginning, I remember when I got my first apartment after I got clean, there was a period of time where I just took in people who were trying to get clean, friends of mine that were struggling, sometimes people who would come into the fellowship who had nowhere to go. The odd one out, right? The underdogs. And I had essentially, my friends used to laugh and say that I had like an unofficial sober house going on within my studio apartment. I mean, it was just crazy. There are so many ways that I wanted to give back and I wanted to help people. But there was a while where I did that with very few boundaries. And it didn't really, ultimately, like I needed a better evolution of that energy. And so at one point I stopped doing that. And I started working in the recovery field. I worked at a rehabilitation center for women. And that was another way to give back. And that taught me more about boundaries. But there were even within that, I learned a lot about that process and about the importance of that and how to keep those energies separated. There was just a whole evolution of energy. And then today, the main way that I am of service is through these videos that I create, the communities that I create for all of us, right? The ways that I work with my clients. Working in social services was very draining and honestly not like, it's so sad how little people get paid to do those jobs because they're so important, right? And they're so draining on the spirit sometimes if you're not really balanced within. Okay, so I have different ways that I do that now, different ways that I work with those energies. And this is kind of an aside here, but I know that there's a lot of recovering addicts who watch these videos. And that's one of the greatest things that I found was that it doesn't matter, be in 12-step, don't be in 12-step or group or anything like that. It's about community and service. Community, service, and connection with our soul, with our higher self, with that beautiful universal cosmic intelligence in some way. That's what keeps people clean. That's what shifts people out of the consciousness of addiction. Because I do believe that it is a consciousness. And so that service piece is so huge. And there may be people watching this who are not recovering addicts. You know, I think we're all recovering from some type of addiction. This is a world that's run by addiction, right? We're all addicted to our phones. Maybe not all of us, but many of us. Some are addicted to work, some are addicted to food, some are addicted to sex and relationships, right? Material objects, material things. It goes on and on and on. Validation. Everybody is addicted to something because we're all trained to look outward to fill that void within that really only wants to be filled with that connection to our higher selves, right? And that connection to universal consciousness, to cosmic consciousness, if you will. So yeah, and actually it's no mistake. I love it. It's no mistake like the tangents that we go on to in here, because Pisces energy ruling that 12th house is very much connected to escapism and addiction. So that's an energy that some people, there may be big lessons, wrap-ups. Maybe there are people watching this right now who are relapsing if they've been clean for a while, or who are just getting clean now and completing that around anything, whether it be a substance, whether it be an emotional state, whether it be a material pursuit. Like we said, there's all different types of addictions. And typically until we find that centered spiritual connection and that sense of purpose and service, as well as community, we're looking for that in all different ways, right? One addiction just shifts to another one, just shifts to another one. And that's how we go through life until we really find the cure for that, which is the connection, the community, the service, the purpose. Right? So if there is somebody on here right now who's going through another leg of their addiction, of mastering that energy, of clearing that consciousness, first of all, if you want assistance, reach out to me. Second of all, just know and understand that this is a powerful and pivotal moment for you. You can do this. All right. Like I said, this tribe is full of people who have done this, who are doing this, right? Because it's always an active process. There is healing available. And if you've recently fallen back into addictive patterns, and this could even be thoughts for some people, it's literally the addictive and the negative thought patterns, the survival patterns and energies. If you've fallen back into that, you can still come out. And sometimes we need to fall back in to get a deeper understanding, to receive a deeper level of clearing. I've been through that process in my own journey, my own recovery as well. Diving back into things, dipping my toe back into the waters. And it served two purposes when I did that. The first purpose was it reminded me that that little switch still exists within me, and that gets flipped pretty quick when I start playing around in areas that I shouldn't. The second thing that it showed me was that energy does not resonate with me anymore. It's not who I am. Right? Sometimes we need to go back into that energy to realize that it doesn't fit. You know, it's like trying on an old pair of pants that used to be our favorite pair of pants, so cozy, so comfortable. And now all of a sudden it's like we get it, the pants buttoned, but we can't move around in them like we used to. They don't feel good. They don't fit quite right anymore. It's that kind of an energy. It's an initiation in and of itself, an initiation back into your power, where you decide, no, this isn't where I want to be. This isn't working for me. And sometimes it takes a lot of courage to admit when something isn't working, especially something that used to work so well, especially when we fall. Sometimes this is really subtle. There's another word that I want to use here that I'm having trouble coming into: insidious. It's very insidious sometimes when we fall back into this mindset. And it's the mindset that happens first, before the relapse. Unless, of course, the relapse is the mindset. But if the relapse is something physical, something tangible, that it starts in the mind first. Because remember, addiction is a consciousness. So just know it's never too late. You could be going through that initiation right now to show you how powerful you are when you're able to step out of that. And it starts by taking accountability and being like, okay, yeah, I went down a path that I didn't intend to go down. Now all of a sudden I'm here. It's kind of like when you go into autopilot, right? When you're driving or something and you're tooling along, and then at some point you stop paying attention to your surroundings, and then you realize that you're at your destination. but you don't remember driving there. That's these old presets within our mind. Even when we're moving out of this consciousness, it takes a really long time to completely disassemble, I guess you could say, that consciousness and that mindset. It's somewhere within our minds for a very long time. It's like a default programming. So that default, that autopilot gets triggered, and we don't even realize until we're at our destination. So some people finding this video, that's where you might be right now. You might have it feels almost like you just woke up and looked around and you're like, oh man, how did I end up here again? Even if we're talking about specific like substance addiction, even if you haven't picked up, or to a certain extent picked up, you may be noticing the mindset that you've allowed yourself to fall back into. And now that awareness is present, this is the moment of change. This is the moment of action. And as we move deeper into this eclipse season, we're going to be given lots of aha moments and lots of opportunities. Sometimes eclipses eclipses things in and eclipses things out. The full moon eclipses are more about eclipsing out, and the new moon eclipsing in. But I mean, it can happen either way. There are no hard and fast rules here. All right. So some people, it's like circumstances may be coming up to shift you out of. And this is related to those new earth timelines, right? Because that being caught in that addictive energy, in those false negative feedback loops, those autopilot states of victimhood, of depression, of giving our power away, right? Because what is addiction? Addiction is placing something on a pedestal. We place a coping mechanism, we place a substance, we place a material thing on a pedestal, and we say, we give that all of our power. We're taking that power back. It's time. So some people may find outer circumstances coming up to remove things from their lives. Some people, it's just those flashes of realization that push us into action. We have Pluto during this new moon at 29 degrees of Aquarius, at 29 degrees of Capricorn. And Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn, that is the anaretic degree. We're tying up those loose ends around our power, around our authority. Other themes that we may be working through, other soul lessons, may be surrounding these energies of self-love, of self-criticism, of the ways that we treat ourselves, the ways that we speak to ourselves, really stepping into a deeper level of worthiness. And with these powerful Virgo energies here, the best way to do that is through self-care. Take care of yourself. Take the kind of care of yourself that you would take of a loved one. Act your way into being. We talked about this in a video that I did. I don't know when it was, but we've talked about this recently, this energy of sometimes you have to act your way into a new state of being. So that self-care is absolutely critical here. Another interesting aspect that we have going on involves Neptune. And Neptune is going to be very strong in the eclipse as well, being the ruler of Pisces, so the ruler of that moon, but also being in close proximity to the moon during that full moon. We have Saturn and Neptune really lending their energies. And as Saturn is in Pisces, of course, Saturn is in his Neptunian energy as well. So a lot of heavy Neptunian energy here. We also have opposing Neptune, who is loosely conjunct the North Node right now in Aries. We have Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces, and we have the North Node at 6 degrees of Aries. All right. So we have that beautiful energy really leading us down our spiritual path, reminding us of the importance of our spiritual journey, of our Dharma, and following that life path. And what's really interesting here that I love is the fact that we have the North Node in Aries and we have Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces. But Neptune will be transitioning into Aries very, very soon here. And this is huge energy. And of course, we will do a video specifically on that. But this is a little preview of that energy. With the North Node here in Aries, loosely conjunct Neptune. So really stepping us into our power as creators, really initiating our spiritual power and reminding us to be that own catalyst in our spiritual awakening, our spiritual journey, and our spiritual service. Now, opposing Neptune and the North Node, we have, of course, the South Node in Libra. But we also have Venus and Black Moon Lilith conjunct at 5 degrees of Libra, as well as Juno at 8 degrees of Libra. So this is a really fascinating combination of planets and astrological bodies and elements here. Venus in Libra is very concerned with partnership. She wants harmony. She wants balance in relationships. She wants to love and be loved. She wants to be, of course, beautiful, feeling good, looking good. She wants to enjoy the connections in her life. When we add in Juno, this only strengthens that desire for bonding and partnership. However, when we have Black Moon Lilith conjunct Venus, there is an edge to her energy. This is very much a Venus in conjunction with Black Moon Lilith, who demands fairness, balance, equality in relationships, who demands justice in relationships, who is not going to allow people to walk all over her. She's healing wounds connected to relationships, connected to partnership and marriage with the South Node here. We're definitely clearing some old energies around the programming of society, the patriarchy, the traditional roles of women in relationships. This is where we're breaking free from all those molds, or we're finding a way to revolutionize this energy, bringing it into the 21st century and into the age of Aquarius. What do those new earth relationships look like? What does a truly reciprocal relationship look like? Where I am receiving as much as I am giving, where I am equal to all those that I am in relationship with, and they hold me in that light. They truly see me, treat me, and respect me as their equal. This is what Venus and Libra conjunct Black Moon Lilith wants. This is where we're looking at revolutionizing our relationships, not only our romantic relationships, but our relationships in general. And there's a highly spiritual component with this opposition to Neptune and also the North Node. This is those new templates that we're designing and the breaking down of the old relational templates. And there is a truth that is coming through here. When we have this opposition to Neptune, there is some deeper truth that's being realized. Neptune can represent illusion, delusion, right? Where we don't quite see things clearly. Everything feels very unreal, very mystical, very intangible. So there's something more tangible that's crystallizing here, an awareness that's coming through here. And that specific awareness is going to be different for each of us. It's going to also depend on where these planets are in our charts and what they may be aspecting. And if you want a transit chart reading or a natal chart reading or any type of chart reading, please reach out to me. My information is in the description box below. But for those of you who know how to look at your chart or reference your natal chart, we're going to be looking at those beginning areas of Libra, as well as those final areas of Pisces. We have Saturn at 16 degrees of Pisces. We have Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces. So really that whole swath of energy, from even a few degrees before 16, right? 14, 13, 14 degrees of Pisces, all the way through these Piscean energies. We're going to be looking at those Virgo energies, that 10, 11 degrees of Virgo within that range. Orbs, honestly, like orbs are so subjective. A lot of people use 5 or 6 degree orbs for a lot of these planets. Some use 9 or 10 for the sun and the moon. Honestly, like it's very intuitive. I've had aspects in my own chart and other people that I've read for that are maybe 12 degrees away, but because of other things going on, they feel more intense. We can miss a lot when we dismiss things because of the orbs. So really look within these Piscean and these Virgo energies, these Libra and these Aries energies within your chart, especially the beginning of Libra and Aries. This is where you're going to be feeling some of these energies most acutely. We're also going to be feeling Mars pretty powerfully at this time. Mars is making a very loose T-square here, and this is why we got into this energy of the orbs and all of that, I think, because this is alluding into this energy with Mars here. So essentially we have this whole grouping of planets in Libra, right? This whole stellium in Libra here that we've been discussing, opposing Neptune in a loose out of sign conjunction with the North Node, right? 29 degrees of Pisces, 6 degrees of Aries. And then we have Mars squaring Neptune still in the sign of Gemini, and also loosely squaring the stellium in Libra. So this brings an extra area of tension. This highlights Mars, who's been very active. He had that conjunction with Jupiter around the middle of August. He's still feeling jazzed. He's still ready to go. So we have this energy within us that is craving spontaneity. It's craving excitement. It's craving novelty and new experiences. It's wanting to move. It's a mover and a shaker, Mars and Gemini, right? And then we have this Venus that's desiring partnership. She's desiring connection. But she's also not really willing to compromise herself with that Black Moon Lilith energy there, right? I'm being drawn to tell you guys that this energy could come out sideways as well. So this is manipulation. Remember, Libra energy is a lot of times known for being fair and balanced, for being sometimes the shadow side that we've talked about a lot on here in the past is the people pleasing and all of that energy. That's absolutely one shadow aspect of Venus is people pleasing. But the other shadow aspect, and I dated a couple Libras, especially in my earlier years. And I'll tell you what, having looked back on their charts later in life, actually very recently, one of them had a massive stellium in Libra, and the other one had a sun and I forget another planet in Libra. People would never have described them as people pleasers or as go along with the flow. I mean, Libra energy has many sides. Libra energy can be very charming. And Libra can use that charm to manipulate very easily. It can be a very manipulative energy in the other shadow side. And I'm not trying to talk a ton of smack about my exes when I say this. Like, I love them dearly. I have so much love in my heart for them. One of them actually is no longer present on this earth plane. And there's so much appreciation for everything that I learned, all the ways that I grew through those deep connections with them. So I'm not trying to say this in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that energy is there. It's present. It is a way that Libra energy can charm the pants right off of you if it wants to. All right. And it could have positive or negative motives for that. Libra energy knows how to bring people together. It knows how to be the peacekeeper. It is a great mediator. All right, I have a South Node in Libra, and I can really feel those energies. The South Node can relate to skills that we bring from past lifetimes. It's not always just negative karma, like some people look at it. Right? There are beautiful aspects to Libra energy, but there are other aspects and other ways that this energy can come out as well. Right? Libra energy understands people. It understands how to relate with people. It understands what people want, what people need, and it can use that information and that energy to whatever aims and intentions it has. All right. So Libras are not always the yes, ma'am, yes, sir, go with the consensus, not shake the boat kind of people. Sometimes they are the ones shaking the boat, but they're smiling the whole time they do it. And they probably still have a lot of people laughing and smiling along. You know what I mean? All of the signs are so complex and so nuanced. And that's what I love about astrology is as we dig into those deeper aspects. So some of these energies that we may be experiencing because remember, Black Moon Lilith brings out the shadow side. We may be looking at where it is that we manipulate, where it is that we play to our strengths, other people's strengths and weaknesses in order to get what we want from them, where it is that we are perhaps, and yes, like the people pleasing for some people, that's a shadow aspect that may be coming out as well. There's all different ways that we're looking at this energy, right? How do I meet my immediate needs? And this is what we do, right? This is what we do before we understand that we can rely on ourselves and we can rely on spirit. You know, as children, in order to get our needs met, other people had to do that for us. We could not do that for ourselves. And some people, going back to the addict energy particularly, never really move out of that energy because we never learned. All right. So it's not, and sometimes we start to learn, but then we forget. Something happens, something triggers us, some sort of traumatic event, some sort of crisis. And we fall back into that energy and we forget that we know how to meet our own needs. And we forget that there's an entire spiritual team up there who also have our backs, right? We begin to lose that faith. So for some people, this is a renewal of faith. But sometimes our guides and our angels step back because we're meant to learn how powerful and competent we are. All right, so they're still assisting us, but they're letting us do a lot of the legwork because that's the initiation. Okay, so now that we've gone through that, I'm going to look back at my chart for a second here. And we're going to see what else we wanted to talk about here. Something else that really wants to be mentioned is the fact that we currently have Chiron in conjunction with Eris. And we've talked about Eris on here as the female warrior planet, sort of like the feminine equivalent to Mars energy. She's like a mix of Mars and Black Moon Lilith. All right, so understand, I've been gaining more of an understanding of Eris lately. And so this is an intense energy. This is the energy where we have that little spark inside of us, that wounded spark inside of us that takes delight in other people's pain, who likes to see people fail and fall on their face. Like one of the lighter expressions of this energy would be like when you see somebody fall and you laugh because it's funny. I think we've all been there before. I mean, there are entire channels on YouTube, I'm sure, devoted to people having accidents because people think it's funny. Like in that instance, we don't necessarily want the person to be seriously injured. All right. If they are, we probably are a little bit horrified by that, although many people may still be transfixed. Right. That's a gentler example of Eris energy. Like the deeper and the real raw energy of Eris is when we enjoy seeing that. Because of the rage and the anger that exists within us, the resentment from being left out, from being not included, from being not accepted, those deep, deep wounds of betrayal and abandonment that cause us to want to see, it's like the energy that wants justice, but it's an eye for an eye kind of a justice. This is where we decide that we're not going to let karma and fate and the natural cycles of evolution and growth help deliver the lessons to the people that have harmed us. And we say, no, I'm going to be the one that delivers this lesson to you, right? Or I'm going to sit back and I'm going to wait and I'm going to delight in that process of seeing you fall. That's Eris energy. That's the lower expression of Eris energy. All right. And there are always ways that we can work with this energy, right? Eris conjunct Chiron, this means we're healing that wound. We're healing it by understanding where was that original hurt? Where was that original betrayal? We also have Uranus still conjunct Sedna, right? Which represents the ways that we abandon ourselves and the ways that we then experience abandonment from others. So there are some deep, deep raw core wounds that the collective is healing right now. And it all plays into this energy as we're moving through eclipse season. So we want to be aware of this. We want to be aware of where it is. If we are delighting in somebody's misfortune, we want to be aware of that. We want to look at the wound underneath that so that we can heal that. So that we can move beyond that. Jealousy, right? Jealousy, what's the other one that's really similar to jealousy when we envy, we covet what somebody else has? There's a lot of these lower emotions that we're sifting through and releasing. A lot of this wounding so that we can truly step into our own power. So that we can move into that energy where we're lifting other people up instead of tearing them down, even if there was nobody there to lift us up and we had to do it ourselves. We're still extending that hand to somebody else because we wish that somebody had extended it to us. We're moving out of the eye for an eye mentality. We're really understanding How everybody in our lives, like we said, going back to that soul contract energy, understanding those soul contracts, their purpose, the lessons we meant to learn, and finding gratitude for that and love for the people in our lives. Some of the people that came to teach us the hardest lessons are actually some of our greatest friends in the spirit world. They love us so much that they were willing to take on this role where they knew that we would hate them. We knew that we would resent them. They knew that we would never be able to have the connection in this lifetime that we have in the non-physical. And they were okay with that. They sacrificed that so that they could teach us this lesson. And we sacrificed that bond so that we could learn. All right, that's big. And sacrifice is another energy that we're going to be working with and playing out as we move through this new moon and into the full moon eclipse. What is a worthy sacrifice? What is worth sacrificing for? Where have I sacrificed too much? Where have I made sacrifice an addiction and a habit? There's so many different ways that this energy is going to work out. But just know and understand that other people are working through these themes too. So just give everybody some grace, but also give everybody some space, like if you need to. All right. And know that it's not your responsibility to be the sounding board for all of this for people. It's not your responsibility to be the punching bag if people want to take out these frustrations on you, right? It's actually kind of your responsibility not to allow that. That's that self-love. That's that self-care. Just breathe. Ask for these deeper, pay attention to the themes that are showing up in your life. Ask for these deeper truths to be realized. Employ that self-care regimen. All right? Work on that inner critic. Work on talking lovingly to yourself. Give yourself some grace. I think I said that. Give other people grace. Give yourself some grace too. Understand that there's another evolution of your energy wanting to be born. We've been working through these intense soul lessons and themes. If you are going through some type of crisis, whether internal or external right now, understand, like, look for the lessons. What is this teaching me? Own that experience and what that's calling in for you, or what that's inviting you to call in, to call upon within yourself. Know that our souls, I'm not even going to say God or the spirit or the universe, because our souls directed all of this, right? Your soul never gives you more than you can handle, but it sure as hell feels like it sometimes. But it's that energy that almost breaks you that is the energy that ultimately makes you into the person, the next version of yourself that you were meant to become. And we all have a choice. This is a free will universe. Are we going to step into that next evolution of ourselves? Or are we going to continue to learn and revisit these lessons? Because remember, we continue visiting them until we learn them. Why not take full advantage of this opportunity to learn right now? What I'm being reminded of is a quote. It says, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. All right, suffering is when we are in pain and we choose to prolong that pain by refusing to, in this case, I'm seeing like the hand reaching out, refusing to take the hand that's offered, refusing to, it's almost like a 4 of Cups kind of energy that I'm feeling in the tarot right now, right? Where that cup is sitting right in front of us, but we're too dejected, too busy feeling rejected, too busy being bitter and frustrated and resentful to notice the opportunity that's right in front of us. It's just like in every situation, even situations, especially situations where we were victimized, we get to choose. Am I going to remain the victim, Or am I going to take my power back? Am I going to heal? Am I going to forgive? Remembering that forgiving is not forgetting. Am I going to own the experiences in my life to allow them to shape me into the powerful force of nature that I am, that I was always meant to be, that I always knew that I would be? That potential exists right now. It's all about aligning with it. And how do we align with it? By acknowledging it, by embracing it, by picking ourselves up and dusting ourselves off, by opening our hearts to the love, paying attention, noticing the love that's all around us. Remember, we see what we expect to see, we get what we're looking for. If we're looking for more pain, more suffering, that's what we're going to find. If we're looking for love, if we're looking for healing, that is available to us as well. I love you. I honor you. I respect you. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you are drawn to work with me one-on-one, I mentioned the natal charts. I do tarot readings. I do one-on-one coaching, so many different things, powerful, powerful healing sessions. You name it, we can do it. If you resonate with me and you are really ready to step into your greatness and you want somebody, that hand that we were talking about reaching out, if my hand feels like it could be that hand for you to help reconnect you with yourself, with that beautiful version of yourself that is ready to burst through, that you are ready to become, then reach out to me. My information is in the description box. Either way, I'll talk to you all very soon.